Football season is still a few months away.
What the fuck?
And I'm losing my mind waiting for the season to start. So let's talk about the Lions Undrafted Free Agents and which ones can actually make the team. The Lions have used a lot of undrafted free agents over the past few years. Guys like Isaac Ukwu, Trevor Nowaske, Craig Reynolds, and Brock Wright have all gotten significant playing time despite going undrafted. So these signings aren't as useless as you might think. So which undrafted free agent rookies make the team this year? I have no idea. But I'm going to talk about it anyway. The Lions picked up two rookie running backs after the draft in Boston College running back Kai Robichaux and Anthony Tyus III out of Ohio. Both of these running backs have a similar play style, and also compared to David Montgomery a little bit. They're both heavy downhill running backs that use toughness and physicality to power through the defense between the tackles. After spending 2 years at Western Kentucky, Kyle Robichaux went to Boston College to finish up his college career. Here he saw an increase in workload, finishing his career with 2,342 yards and 24 touchdowns while averaging 4.9 rushing yards per attempt. He excels in short yard situations and has made his career off of his power and physicality along with his ball security. He also boasts strong vision when running the ball and a high football IQ that coaches seem to love. And his strong work ethic lets him fit in well with the Lions locker room. His weaknesses come in the passing game. He's a good check down option with secure hands, but he isn't the best route runner and he tends to struggle to find separation. And in pass protection, his high football IQ helps him pick up blitzes well, but his technique can be inconsistent against faster defenders. I think he has a decent shot at being the running back 4 for this roster, but with the time the Lions have put into Sione Vaki, I most likely see Robichaux as a practice squad guy. Anthony Tyus spent 3 years at Northwestern where he never saw more than 250 yards and wasn't really talked about, but turned that all around in his year at Ohio. In his 1 year there, he had 1,200 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns on 237 attempts, and added another 137 yards in the passing game with 2 touchdowns. While his playstyle is similar to Robichaux's, a power back that uses physicality and toughness, Tyus also has good shiftiness and change of direction, helping him more in the open field and outside the tackles. His weaknesses, though, could be his undoing with this team. He fumbled 5 times and was on the injury report multiple times during the season last year, and with the injuries the Lions went through last year, I see them going with the guy that was healthier, even if it is just a practice squad, which is what I see for Tyus at best. Next up is the receivers. The Lions picked up 2 here as well, in UMass receiver Jacoby Keeney-James and Syracuse's Jackson Meeks. These are 2 very different receivers when it comes to play style, and I think that will factor in a lot when it comes down to who can make the team. Jacoby Keeney-James spent 5 years at the FCS level before transferring to UMass last year and becoming their best player. Only playing in 10 of his 37 games at Eastern Washington, he only had 8 catches for 146 yards and 0 touchdowns. But at UMass, in a bad offense, he was the star with 50 receptions for 839 yards and 6 touchdowns. He's also a very athletic receiver. Showing this at his pro day, he ran a 4.37 40, hit 40.5 inches on his vertical, and his shuttle time also would have been the best among receivers at the combine this year. Where he shines most on the field is on deep routes, where he can show off his speed and is also a threat with his quick double moves. A potential weakness for Keeney-James is his age, as he'll be turning 25 early on into the season, as well as his durability. He only played in 12 games in 2 of his 6 years, and missed 7 games in 2023 due to injury. Jackson Meeks spent his first 3 years of college at Georgia, where he did almost nothing, catching only 10 passes for barely over 100 yards. For his senior year, though, he had a major increase in production at Syracuse, grabbing 78 receptions for just over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. He uses his big frame and large catch radius to thrive on contested catches, but being that he isn't the quickest receiver, there's some speculating his speed and inability to create separation could be why he has to make those contested catches. He also has great hands and is valuable getting first downs, as 55 of his catches last year went for them. He's also a good run blocker. PFF graded his run blocking at 75.5, and if that can translate to the NFL, he'd be a solid pickup for Detroit. His weaknesses all stem from his speed. He has lower top end speed, has trouble getting separation from defenders, and is also sometimes slow coming out of breaks. The Lions did offer him $200,000 guaranteed to sign with the team, and some are saying that it was in hopes of re-signing his uncle Zadarius Smith, but I think it's more of the upside the Lions see in him that caused the payday rather than the re-signing of his uncle. The next 2 were tight ends. First is Luke Deal out of Auburn, and then Zach Horton out of Indiana. I say tight end loosely here, as I think a tight end fullback hybrid role is probably going to be more fitting for these two, but it'll still say tight end on the roster. Luke Neal was invited to rookie training camp and was then signed after, when Detroit also released undrafted free agent Caden Prieskorn. He spent 6 years at Auburn where he never really did much, just getting 17 receptions for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns in his entire career, to the point of him having to use his high school highlight reel to really show what he's capable of. He was a captain for the Tigers for 2 years and was also a semifinalist for the Jason Witten Man of the Year award. As for his on-field play, there isn't a ton that pops out at you. His best year in the stat book was 2021, where he had 9 catches, clearly establishing he's a blocking tight end over a pass threat guy. His experience and work ethic are his clear strengths, but as a slower tight end and not having a lot of work in the passing game, I'd say the only chance he'll have of making the roster is if the coaches have an intention of using him as a fullback primarily. I just don't really see a roster spot for Deal here. Speaking of fullback, Zach Horton is about as true of a fullback as you can get in present-day football. Splitting time between fullback and tight end, Horton racked up 623 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns on 61 receptions, while also being a key blocker in the run game. He spent 2 years at James Madison before transferring to Indiana for his last year following Curt Cignetti. Horton made his career in college off of being the unsung hero and doing the little things for his team, which is exactly how the Lions are built. His coaches have praised his work ethic and being a do-it-all player, and his blocking especially stands out. Like Deal, Horton's primarily a blocking tight end, and his PFF grades for both run blocking and pass protection are both fairly good for his position. His weaknesses come in the passing game. He has some great catches in his highlights, but he doesn't have a refined route tree and isn't great on his cuts. Also, while he has a good first step, he has a lack of burst and is slower for a tight end, so separation is hard to come by. I do, however, think new offensive coordinator John Morton commenting he'd be open to a fullback on the roster does open a door for Horton. And he could make the roster in that fashion, or at worst on the practice squad. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, the Lions picked up 2 defensive backs after the draft. But now there's only one left. Gavin Holmes out of Texas was waived a couple days ago for the Lions to pick up Devad Wilson, so now it's just Ian Kennelly out of Grand Valley State. Ian Kennelly played in 49 games for Grand Valley State in his 4-year career there, where he had 174 tackles, 8 interceptions, and even returned a couple of punts. Coming in from Division II, there wasn't much chance of Kennelly being drafted, despite being one of Division II's top defensive players last year. He went to the Lions' local pro day and absolutely showed out. To the point where not only did new defensive coordinator Kelvin Shepard gravitate towards him, but Dan Campbell and the special teams coordinator Dave Phipp as well. What they saw during the pro day is exactly what they saw in his game film too, a physical defensive back with above average size and speed. He ranks 95th with his relative athletic score out of the over 1,000 strong safeties evaluated since 1987, showing he's more than just his 4.53 40 time. The glaring weakness here is obvious: level of competition. He hasn't seen anyone over Division II, and the major jump to the NFL could show problems for Kennelly. That being said, the coaches seem to love him, and he's a hard worker that produces, so I see him with a practice squad spot at the minimum. Last up is the big men. The Lions signed 2 linemen after the draft, an offensive lineman Mason Miller out of North Dakota State and defensive lineman Keith Cooper Jr. out of Houston. Mason Miller is a favorite for a lot of people among undrafted free agents making the roster. The roster doesn't have much depth at tackle behind the 2 starters, and Miller could provide that. He spent 5 seasons at North Dakota State, and in his senior year started all 16 games at right tackle. He was named FCS First-Team All-American by the Associated Press, and in 12 regular season games posted a 91% overall grade while allowing only 1 sack and 2 TFLs with 1 penalty. His main strength is his experience. He started in 41 games in the last 3 years and was a rotational backup for 20 games before that. He's also a very versatile lineman. He's made starts at right tackle and left guard in the last 2 years, and in the weeks leading up to the draft worked out at all 5 positions on the line. As expected with any FCS player though, his biggest concern is level of competition. He only saw 2 Power 4 teams in his career, so the bounce up to the NFL playstyle could be tricky. He also broke his leg in 2022, which called for him to be replaced at right tackle by Zabel for the 2023 season, which drew some questions of whether it was for the injury or his play. Keith Cooper Jr. played 3 seasons at Tulane before transferring in his final year to Houston. In his career, he had 119 tackles, 26 tackles for loss, 14 sacks, and 8 fumble recoveries, 1 for a touchdown. A much sought-after player, Cooper's capable of playing both defensive end or the interior spots of the line, which is most likely why the Lions picked him up. Said to have violent hands, he's a very physical lineman, but also has good agility and athleticism that could contribute to special teams play as well. He isn't the fastest player though, and most coaches see him as unlocked potential rather than a ready-to-go player. Like Jackson Meeks, he also got $145,000 in guaranteed money, showing the team would like to fit him somewhere. So, which of these actually make the team? My top 3 for filling a roster spot are Zach Horton, Ian Kennelly, and Mason Miller. I also think one of the receivers make the team and leaning towards Meeks just for his playstyle. Starting with Zach Horton at number 3. I think the Lions want a better player at fullback this year. Sane Zylstra wasn't bad last year, but there definitely could have been improvement at the position, and with Laporta and Brock Wright making up tight end 1 and 2, the tight end 3 will most likely be the best fullback of the bunch, and I think Horton can beat out Zylstra and Deal. Second most likely for me is Kennelly. The Lions have 2 strong safeties in Branch and Joseph, but the depth behind them is very weak. The Lions did draft a safety in Dan Jackson, but Kennelly would be a good option to roster as he could be a decent backup as safety along with Jackson, as well as have good production in special teams. Last, and most likely to make the team to me, is Mason Miller. Every NFL team needs more offensive linemen, and with Miller being as versatile as he is, it just makes sense. The depth at offensive tackle for the Lions is pretty weak right now too. After Decker and Sewell, there isn't a ton of experience there, and with Frank Ragnow also retiring in the last couple days, that gives another lineman spot available to the team. And even though the Lions drafted 2 linemen, I think there's absolutely a spot here for Miller. Realistically, I see 5 or 6 of these guys having a good shot at a roster spot, and most of them could easily get a practice squad job for a move up into the season. Keeping an eye on all 9 of these players should be a lot of fun in the preseason.